everybody. Recording live from somewhere.
Welcome to Totem Pole Nation on a Monday, and we're here on Lambo's World of Sports. We want to thank you, Totem Pole Nation, for all the love and all the support. Of course, look who we have in the house ready to go. MK.
MK is in the house. MK is in the house. MK is in the house.
Look who we have. MK in the house. Thank you, MK, for tuning in. Just Jack, how y'all doing? Thank you for tuning in to Totem Pole Nation. And John Mark, SCM, thank you for tuning in as well. We do appreciate you as well. Thank you for tuning in. But today, we got to discuss, is this going to be the worst QB class in NFL draft history? Now, according to this year's draft, I think we had about 5 quarterbacks drafted in the top 12 this year. Next year's quarterbacks class, it's not looking too good. Except there's 5 of them that will make sense, or 5 of them that will be popular. One is Shedeur Sanders. Carson Beck, I know he's got all the hype from Georgia. He's not ready yet to be in the NFL after 2 years. Quinn Ewers is up there. Jalen Monroe. Jackson Dart is somebody you need to watch out for as well. Jackson Dart is somebody you need to watch out for. Thank you, John Mark, for commenting. Drew Allar. I don't know. This 2025 draft class isn't really great. I will give you the 5 quarterbacks that I'll get in depth to. Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Jalen Moore, and of course, Shedeur Sanders. Those are the quarterbacks that are probably worth being talked about. Maybe I dig deep into DJ Uiagalelei and other quarterbacks, but I mean, this quarterback class ain't really like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not really surprising to me, and I'm gonna tell you why. There's gonna be some weaknesses, and I'm gonna tell you why. Number one, I'm gonna start with Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is great. You know, Shedeur, what he's done playing under Deion Sanders, his dad, doing very well. And look, I'm not getting into the stats stuff because I don't really care about stats. I just care about how you really perform in the field. And when it comes to Shedeur can perform on the field, right? His offensive line issues, Colorado's obviously fixed them when they had over 50 out-of-state transfer portals, so they revamped their offensive line. He should be fine. I know he lost his Dylan Edwards, the running back. He lost him in Kansas State. He lost a couple wide receivers, but he still has Travis Hunter. Here's what I look for when it comes to my quarterbacks. Here's what I look for. I mean, I understand that Shedeur's strengths, he's consistent, high over the top. He's released, demonstrates as refined, repetitive, great throwing mechanic. He sets him apart from many of his competitors. I mean, he's really brilliant as far as the mind of the game. Drop back techniques, route depth is great. His pocket presence is noteworthy. Now, he does scan the field very well and efficiently, but here's also the weaknesses that I have when it comes to Shedeur. Now, I don't agree that Jalen Monroe is going to be the first quarterback picked of the 2025 draft. I'm going to tell you right now, the first quarterback to be picked in the 2025 draft is going to be Shedeur Sanders. Whether he wins or loses or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Now, here's the weaknesses when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Here's the inconsistencies that he can work on as well. His issue is his ball security is definitely the issue, particularly when he invades tackles and motions. He's had 19 fumbles in his career already. That not only threatens the field position, but also highlights a risk factor that's unmatched for any quarterback. Also, his arm talent on tape kind of has a little bit of mixed results, right? Obviously, certain passes he throws are wobbly. and then also emphasizing the on the field uh, versatility to throw the ball, and sometimes his mechanics are very off. Sometimes, right? He leans on his up. When you see Shedeur throw the ball, he leans on his upper body too much. The inconsistencies in the stance and his footwork has been placed too far. And sometimes the interceptions, even though he didn't throw a lot of interceptions, he really throws off his back foot. Like I just don't really understand. Now every quarterback has their weaknesses, every quarterback has their strengths, but this quarterback class isn't really great. It's only about worth 5 quarterbacks to really talk about. So number one, that is Shedeur Sanders. John Mark, the quarterback draft class of 2025 does indeed suck. Seems like a very lackluster. I do agree with you. And I'm not even done with there. So that's just Shedeur Sanders. Now, number 2 I want to get into, I want to talk about Carson Beck. Carson Beck has played 1 year at Georgia, and we're talking about this man already? And look, I'm not disrespecting Carson Beck at all. But let's be honest, let's keep it a buck here. The man's played 1 full season, and you want him out the draft, or you think he's ready to play in the NFL after 2 seasons? Give Carson Beck like 3 years, 4. Do what Stetson Bennett did. Just stay past 4 or 5 years until he aged out of college. I mean, when it comes to Carson Beck, this guy is 6'4", 215 pounds. He has some decent size playing in SEC. His pocket mechanics is very, very great. His elite torch, he gets a zip on the ball. His pocket presence is natural, especially when he feels the pressure. He's very, very good at the play action under the center, quickly swinging his head. He also scans, the post snap, which is very great, which most quarterbacks do continue to struggle when it comes to that as well. He's a quick thinker. He's got high IQ. He's rhythm-based out, keeps defenses guessing, displays superior short to immediate accuracy, which is very important as well. He sets up his receivers for the catches. Now, Georgia has a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent. So sometimes talent saves you but so much. Here's what I don't really like about Carson Beck. And I'm just going off strengths and weaknesses, and I'm not a hater towards any of these quarterbacks. It's what we watched from last year and what they can improve on. Carson Wentz concerns me in the pocket composure, tendencies to prematurely halt progressions and resort off-balance throws when integrity is compromised. Also, he hesitates very too much at sometimes. He needs to elevate the anticipatory of the throws rather than relying solely on clear throwing lanes, which means he needs to be throwing it more in tighter coverages because every receiver is not always going to be wide open. His pre-snap reads need a little bit more adjustments. It needs to be more refined when it comes to that as well. It's a learning curve. He only has limited time game experience. Like I said, this is only his second year. After Stetson Bennett has started forever. It's only his second year. His mechanics, he does unnecessary pump fakes for whatever reason. Like, if you get that first read, you just want to throw it to the first read. You want to just scan the field. If I have my first read, I'm going to throw it there. Carson Beck does have a hesitation of just pump faking. Like, okay, like, great. You're not Tom Brady or whoever. Let's stop with the pump fakes. But I think when it comes to Carson Beck, he just needs more playing time. He needs more experience. He'll be fine. I'm not hating on that. Georgia's going to be fine. Like I said, with the 12-team playoff, they'll be fine. Shedeur will be fine. So Carson Beck just needs more playing experience. All right, the third one I want to look at, Quinn Ewers. Now, Texas made it to the was one game away from national championship game last year. Quinn Ewers is coming back. I know there's going to be a lot of talk about Arch Manning. There's going to be a lot of talk about Arch Manning. I promise you. A lot of talk about Arch Manning. Arch Manning did not opt into the NCAA 25 game, and Arch Manning, is his, second year sitting behind Quinn Ewers. Now, Quinn Ewers, we're not sure if he's going to be the third pick or the fourth pick in the 2025 draft. I mean, that depends on what teams are good and suck. Not only that, but Quinn Ewers, ladies and gentlemen, has been kind of injury prone. Remember the season? It was either the season before last, and I think sometime last season, if I'm correct, Quinn Ewers did sustain injuries. And I'm not disrespecting him. Everybody gets hurt, so I don't want y'all to take that very personal. What I like with Quinn Ewers is under the Steve Sarkisian offense, he's very, very, very efficient. He was immature when he first came in after being the number one player in the class of 2022. His passing skills are very, very great. Even while facing competition, you had the quarterback, I think, that transferred to Duke. I think you had Malik Murphy as well. And then you have Arch Manning. He still managed to submit his position and still stands to still win the job. His poise under pressure and ability to adapt, dodge pass rushes, and extend plays is definitely game-changing. Now, giving up the stacked quarterback class that they just had with Caleb Williams and Drake May, Ewers is going to have a challenging season ahead, especially when Texas is playing in a tougher conference in the SEC, which is known for football players or which is known for top draft picks. I mean, this man, when it comes to Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's just great. He's got a great sidearm. It's very natural. The velocity of the ball is great. I wouldn't compare him to Patrick Mahomes as far as sidearms. If you look at him and you look at his shoulder width, he's more like a Matthew Stafford sidearm, but I'm not going to compare him to a Patrick Mahomes sidearm. I'm not going to do that. Now, here's his weakness when it comes to Quinn Ewers. He plays down to bad teams, and we've seen that. He plays great to elite competition, but against teams that are not great, he plays down to them. In order for him to evolve into elite quarterback as well, he has to ties up his footwork and release point and vision, which will help his overall decision-making progress on the field. His deep throws can be like very off-target, typical challenges for someone that is in the third year of the Steve Sarkisian system or the fourth year. Mistakes, he makes a lot of mistakes and easy completions, which sometimes creates a lot of dumb interceptions. And just like when he gets sacked sometimes, he doesn't hold on to the ball. He doesn't really tuck it as well. His footwork as a passer needs significant refinement as well, especially in his debut season. His irregularity sometimes during games, his footwork became more apparent. Sometimes his issues in timing and accuracy can be a problem as well. But consistency has been an issue since 2022 with the ball security. Teams against, back then when they were in conference in the Big 12, TCU and Oklahoma, his decision-making wasn't really great. And like I said, Quinn Ewers wasn't really good against lesser competitions like, I don't know, when they played Wyoming and they barely beat Wyoming, and then they played good against Alabama, so stuff like that. Fourth quarterback I really want to get into Jackson Dart. Now, Shedeur Sanders, let me make sure I correct myself. Shedeur Sanders, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Monroe, which I'll get to Jalen Monroe in a second, and Jackson Dart. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about Jackson Dart enough. Now, I know Ole Miss is like not the team you really talk about because, you talk about Colorado in prime time, Deion Sanders, and you're talking about selling out tickets and all this stuff. You got to put some respect on what Lane Kiffin is doing. Bringing in like 40 guys from the transfer portal. I think they were number one or number two in the transfer portal as far as that. And Ole Miss winning, 10, 11 games last season. Lane Kiffin is having guys. They rebuilt that defensive line. They revamped that offensive line. Now, I know they're running back named Quinshawn Judkins, I think, transferred to Ohio State as well. So they no matter who they lose, they're rebuilding. And Jackson Dart is coming back because he could have entered the draft last year. Or this past season as well, or this upcoming draft he could have entered, but he chose no. I think with Jackson Dart, he stands tall under pressure. You need a quarterback that's able to stand tall under pressure. He utilized pre-snap reads to identify defense and weaknesses as well. He maintains that downfield vision, which is very, very, very important. He also shows excellent arm flexibility, adjusting throwing angles and release points. And he has a very strong arm, which is not an issue. His velocity and deep throws. Now, he doesn't have that many weaknesses as the other quarterbacks. The only weaknesses that he has, and like I said, every quarterback has his weaknesses, but out the top 3 or top 4 that I just talked about, the weaknesses that Jackson Dart has, arm strength is solid, but it's not really elite to top tier. I think that's just crap right there. His footwork can be inconsistent. His accuracy can be off sometimes, everybody. He abandons initial reads too quickly, which sometimes his throws are being forced. Literally, he likes to push the ball down the field, and sometimes he ignores checkdowns. Decision-making under duress, which is very, very important, and ball security requires further consistency. And then he needs to improve on precision and crucial throws to protect the receiver. Because sometimes he throws the ball and the receiver got to jump for it and he gets smacked. So when you throw the ball, obviously, depending on what route it is, you got to keep your receivers on the ground. Please don't make your receiver jump for it and get killed. That's the only thing when it comes to Jackson Dart. But I think as of so far, Jackson Dart has the less inconsistencies for these quarterbacks. Now, the last quarterback, or one of the last quarterbacks I'm going to talk about, Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe, Nick Saban retired, ladies and gentlemen. You have Kalen DeBoer, who is 110 and 3, and I don't know, he's probably had 12 losses in a career. Turned Washington around in 2 years, takes a job at Alabama. Alabama's the dream job. Nick Saban steps down. Jalen Milroe is only a sophomore. He's only a sophomore. Now, when you're watching him, Alabama's own line was not the strongest, which under Nick Saban is kind of weird when you have your Alabama offensive line is not as good. The defense wasn't good the first 3 games, but it has improved. When it comes to Jalen Milroe, he excels in the read option. He's a read option quarterback. So I think him having Kalen DeBoer with that read option, he's going to be great. Read option. His play fakes are very convincing. He's capable of picking up crucial yards with his legs, which we already know. He's resilient, player with a proven track record. He knows how to bounce back. Even from a turnover, he knows how to bounce back and score. He has great anticipation and accuracy on certain routes, able to lead receivers, which means Jalen Milroe can hit the ball. He can throw it deep. We know he can throw it deep. But here is the inconsistencies that I saw last year and what he could work on this year. He holds the ball too long. It takes sacks. Interceptions have been a major concern, even from last season. Now, towards the end of the season, he's gotten better with not turning the ball over as much. But his interceptions, as of last year and going forward, we'll see. I know the season hasn't started. His interceptions were very questionable. He needs to pick up the speed of the decision-making process and improve the complex coverage of rotations, meaning, just because when you run something pre-snap by the quarterback and sometimes the coach tells you, well, throw it there. Just because the pre-snap might be open, after the post-snap when the defense makes adjustments, that's what he has trouble with when they make the changes as well. His reliance on athletic ability can lead to underdevelopment in the traditional passing pocket, which means he needs to stand in the pocket a little bit longer as well. So that right there, as of now, those are going to be my top five quarterbacks in 2025 going into the draft. I just don't know if there's any other quarterback that you really want to talk about. Maybe the last thing I would talk about, and maybe I'm not sure he's going to be a high pick, but I don't want to disrespect the guy. Last quarterback that I'm going to talk about is Cameron Rising out of Utah. Ladies and gentlemen, Cam Rising has been in college for 7 years, right? I've been raving about Utah. I've been talking about Utah. And I know Utah went through 2 quarterbacks last year and somehow still won 8 or 9 games. Went through 2 quarterbacks, had a great defense. I know they got blown out by Oregon and, lost to Oregon State and all this other stuff. But with Cameron Rising, he's a threat as a runner, which is great. He rises when extending plays. He's a loose athlete. He should be able to clean up his mechanics. He's an injury-prone quarterback. He just came off an ACL injury, I think, when he towards ACL thing against Penn State in that Rose Bowl. His arm talent is good. It's not elite arm strength, but he could easily develop it and make all the NFL throws. The ball placement is a great strength. His weaknesses is not that much either. But we don't want to talk about Cam Rising because he's injury. But Utah under Kyle Whittingham as the head coach, they don't really throw the ball a lot. They hit you with that 13 personnel. 13 personnel means one running back, 3 tight ends. They want to ground and pound on you. With the talent that Utah has, they don't really have like that much. They have talent, but with 13 personnel, they're just gonna run the ball on you. When it comes to Cam Rising's weaknesses, he does hang back a second or third receiver. He's kind of slow going through progressions at times. He got to clean up his throwing motion. His throwing motion was kind of off. He's often too quick to pull the ball down and take it off, and see him having trouble sniffing through moving parts in the middle of the field as well. And then also, when it comes to that, he holds the ball very too loosely, and it's that ball security. Quarterbacks, when you hold that ball, 2 hands. Y'all like to do one hand. Y'all like to do this. Hold that ball with 2 hands. Grip. Hold that ball with 2 hands. Because holding the ball with 2 hands, it's very, 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 very important to hold that ball with 2 hands. But look, this is it. Will this be the worst draft class in NFL history, or is this draft class just mid? Let me know in the comments. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Yo, thank you for tuning in to Totem Pole Nation. But look, I mentioned 6 quarterbacks: Shedeur Sanders, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Monroe, Jackson Dart, Cam Rising. If I miss anybody, let me know. But I don't think there's nothing to really talk about, to be honest. I mean, what you want me to name? All of the quarterbacks that are going into that are possibly going into the draft for the 2025 draft class as of now. Shedeur Sanders, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Monroe, Cameron Ward from he transferred from Washington State to Miami. Jackson Dart, Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard is not at Duke no more. We have Riley Leonard at Notre Dame. Connor Wegman, Graham Mertz, Preston Stone, Dylan Gabriel, who is no longer at Oklahoma. He is at the University of Oregon. You have Noah Fitta, DJ Uiagalelei transferred to Florida State, Grayson McCall, Jalen Daniels, not Jaden Daniels, Jalen Daniels, Garen Nussler, Cam Rising, Tyler Van Dyke, Tommy Mellett, Gunnar Stockton, J.K. Jefferson, Kyle McCoy, who is no longer at Ohio State, is now going to Syracuse. Brock Vandagriff is from Georgia as well. He's like a backup, or unless he transfers well. Will Howard is probably a quarterback that I probably missed, but we have to see how he plays in the Ohio State system. I know that Will Howard is very great at Kansas State. Sam Howard, Ty Thompson, Will Rogers, Matthew Suka, Caden Slater, Miller Moss, Jake Garcia, Kyron Drones. Don't know if he'll be out yet. Sawyer Robinson, I think, transferred from Virginia Tech to Baylor, I think. If I'm correct. If I'm not correct, let me know. Carlos DeRosa, Luke Ademeyer is the quarterback from Illinois. And lastly, what do I have? Zach Calza, Seth Hennigan, Kyle Shishi, Spencer Pedras, Tyler Show also hit the transfer portal. Peyton Thorne, JT Daniels, Hudson Card, Hank Betsheimer, Jeff Sims from Nebraska, Taylor Green, and Baron Morton. So there's a possibility, if I'm correct, that there's going to be 48 quarterbacks in the 2025 draft. Now, not all of them are going to be selected in the NFL draft. Some of them will be free agents. But this draft class is not going to be the best one. Like the man from Soul says, you have to be bad in order to be good. And if I'm NFL teams picking in the top 5, maybe my top 5 is Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers. That's like my top 3. I don't know who else you want to pick. This draft class isn't good. But Totem Pole Nation, thank you for tuning in. Henry, what's up? Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Total Pro Nation. Like I said, we love you. Thank you for all the support. Total Pro Nation, we will be back for another episode. This is Lambos World of Sports. The worst quarterback class in NFL draft history. We will see in April of 2025 what quarterbacks are going to be top tier and going to get drafted. Y'all have a great day, and please take